Big picture, your take on Elon's America Party.
Well, having just left a third party and rejoining the GOP to try to make some changes from the inside, I think he has a lot of challenges ahead. I think it's wonderful that he is wanting to support fiscally conservative candidates in whatever way that turns out to be. But, I mean, just things like ballot access are extremely challenging. Just ask Bobby Kennedy how that works in a federal election. I know I've been involved for over a decade in the Libertarian Party, and just in Virginia alone, getting ballot access for a federal election takes tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of signatures in every congressional district. It's very time consuming. I know Elon has the money and probably the staffing to, get that done, but it is definitely a challenge, especially in 50 states.
Talk to us a little bit about the Libertarian Party. Why do you think that he chose not to work with the Libertarian Party? I mean, it was right there. The infrastructure was there. I think that the chair of the Libertarian Party was saying, hey, Elon, imagine what we could do with your money.
That's an excellent question. And, it's interesting. We haven't really seen a platform yet for what Elon foresees as, being the vision of his party, but he's not historically a libertarian. People can change, but we've seen, posts from him in the past that talk about gun control, gun bans, UBI, universal basic income, which is definitely a more socialist platform than a libertarian one. So I can't read his mind, but it could be that, other than being fiscally conservative, he's just not libertarian.
That's a fascinating insight because we kind of have assumed, I think many people have in recent years, that he's sort of come on board because more and more of his rhetoric has been libertarian and less of it has been socialist. But he does have a pretty strong past history of advocating for things that we don't believe in. And it may be the fact that he thinks the Libertarian Party is too extreme. It may be the fact that he thinks that the Libertarian Party is full of a bunch of crazies who aren't serious about actually winning elections. And he probably, if he's even studied the Libertarian Party at all, he may have seen that, principled movements have tried to affect and impact outcomes in the Libertarian Party, and even they have been unsuccessful in managing to get principled campaigns mounted, present company included. But Amity, I'd be curious your thoughts. Why did you decide to move from the LP to the Republican Party?
Yeah, so after, like I said, over a decade of activism and, challenging aspects like ballot access, and then being at the convention last year and seeing how, I used to be a proponent of ranked choice voting, but then seeing ranked choice voting in action at the convention, resulting in a candidate that most of the party did not support. I just felt like it's a lost cause. I love the philosophy of the Libertarian Party. I love the camaraderie of people who have our vision. But as far as federal elections, it's just not plausible. We've been going at it for 50 years and we can't get people elected in federal office. So after seeing what Angela McArdle did with her coalitions with the Trump campaign and affecting change within the system, I came to the realization that, if the Republican Party is good enough for people like Thomas Massie and previously Ron Paul and Rand Paul currently, then it's good enough for me. I'm going to do what I can to try to affect change in the system that we have. We don't live in a utopia. We have to work within the system we have. Now, I have decided to join the Republican Liberty Caucus, which is a caucus of individuals who are small L libertarians, and try to get candidates into office who have our ideals and our philosophy just within that two-party system.
I completely agree, Amity, and I'm grateful that you share the same views as I do of this. And I'm also a member of the Republican Liberty Caucus as well. Also, the on ranked choice voting, I'm also starting to grow skeptical of it because that's how we got Zoran Mamdani in New York City, his massive political upset, defeating Governor Andrew Cuomo. According to ranked choice tabulation, the Queens Assembly member received 56% of the vote, giving a win over Cuomo and 9 other candidates. Ranked choice voting is an electoral method where voters rank candidates by preference rather than selecting just one. Instead of picking a single candidate, voters list their first, second, and third choices and so on. I love the theory, but the reality seems to be something far different. It's a little bit like some libertarians with some of their theories. When the rubber hits the road, it sometimes doesn't work out in practicality. And I'm glad you're willing to admit that in certain ways. I'm willing to admit it. There are a lot of things that I was wrong about 10 years ago that I think being able to change your mind is a sign of strength, not of weakness. So, Amity, I'm glad to see you nodding along with all of that. But my next question for you here on this America Party topic is, do you think that this is just sour grapes with Elon? It feels like to me, and I mean, there are very few bigger Elon fans than me. I love him, defended him against the president in recent scuffles and dust-ups, but I can't defend him in this because it seems to me as if this is more of a temper tantrum than a real desire to give people and voters more choices. Do you agree?
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I honestly think Elon is sincere in everything he does. I think he is certainly motivated to see our country succeed. Um, I think he truly believed in Doge. I think he believed that he would go into, his position in the government and help just trample on the swamp. And he found so much waste, fraud, and abuse, and then nothing was done about it. And I could understand where that would, it would cause him to be disillusioned by the swamp and the duopoly and want to start something new. So I think he has the best of intentions. I don't think he's doing it to, stick it to Donald Trump at all. I think he sincerely has visions that he wants to, implement for our country to make everyone better. And that's commendable. I just think that, perhaps if he were to join the Republican Liberty Caucus and help us get more people like Thomas Massie in office in all the, differing states and districts, that might be a better way to handle it. I know Thomas Massie was on Theo Vaughn recently, and he actually talked about why a third party won't work or an independent run. There's 2 parties that run our Congress, and there's 2 doors that they go behind closed doors and make their deals. And there's no room for a third party or an independent. You have to caucus with one of the 2 parties. So I think it's a great vision, but implementing it is a whole nother thing. Again, we don't live in utopia. So,
Amity, is it safe to say that you think that the America Party won't really last and will fizzle out?
probably so. Yeah, absolutely.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm speaking to Amity Dolby this morning. She's a former third-party activist, now a fully minted party member of the Republican Party and the Republican Liberty Caucus. Welcome, welcome. She's joining us here live on the Wake Up America show, and we're glad to have her. If you're enjoying her commentary, don't forget to click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the show at rumble.com/AP4Liberty, make sure you click the follow button as well. Now, you brought up Thomas Massie a minute ago, and his name is also mud with the MAGA forces for not voting for Trump's big, beautiful bill. So are you afraid, Amity, that you've cast your lot in with another group of people who are all going down with a ship over here, noting how Thomas Massie is getting treated? You can see how we libertarians get treated here. We don't get treated much better in the Libertarian Party, but we get treated sometimes even worse over here. So are you surprised?
It seems like Republicans campaign like libertarians and then legislate like Democrats. So, which is really odd to me. Once they get elected, they should probably do what they promised they're going to do. And, I saw, President Trump and a lot of people in Congress campaigning on cutting spending. And, that's exactly what Thomas Massie and people like Rand Paul vote for. And that's why he voted no on the big, beautiful bill. There's not enough spending cuts. So I think if people would just realize that, he legislates like he campaigns, then it would be a whole nother story. Elon recently shared a meme that Being Libertarian put out that says, the people saying Elon should just work on making the Republican Party better are the same ones who have been calling to primary the few Republicans who want smaller government. Now, that may be true, but there's also those of us who, are also calling on him to maybe still work within the Republican Party, who don't want to abandon those few who are wanting smaller government. I'm not going to abandon Thomas Massie and Rand Paul and others like them when they're trying to make changes. So, that's why I feel like working within the party would be a lot smarter for him than working on this third party gig.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I wish that more people had your vision, that shared our principles, that had your vision, Amity, because I'm afraid that we are very short of practical libertarians in the United States. Down south in South America, Javier Milei's Libertad Avanza party, Liberty Advances, is truly advancing liberty. We're going to speak to Scott Scheller from the Free State Project here in about 15 to 20 minutes about Javier Milei's economic miracle of Argentina and how he plans to globalize the empanada. More on that coming later. But it's nice to see that we have in South America some applications of our principles to reality. And I think Javier Milei probably shows more than anybody how the rubber will hit the road when it comes to how to apply the principles of economic freedom and personal liberty to an actual nation state. It's good to see. But in regards to how we'll actually bring liberty back here at home, if the America Party doesn't do it, and if the Republican Liberty Caucus is still in its burgeoning phase, if the Libertarian Party isn't going to do it, where do we look in the short term for hope, Amity, while we work on our long-term projects to advance a better, freer America in the future? Where are you looking at in the short term for any kind of short-term victories or short-term hopes? I know how I would answer, but I'm curious how you would answer a question like that. Where are you looking at right now for your hope other than perhaps just Thomas Massie?
Well, that's a great question. I think short term, we just have to encourage everybody with our philosophy and, just look at the long game. My whole reason for not giving up when it doesn't seem like the Libertarian Party worked for me was, the fact that I have grown children, I have a grandchild, and we have to leave this country better than we found it, or else our children are going to suffer even more. So right now, I'm just working on recruitment. I'm working on talking to people my kids' age, the millennials and the Gen Zs who, are looking for the American dream and not being able to find it because of the economic collapse that we seem to be, heading towards. So I'm just, reaching out to them and trying to teach my daughter's friends and my son's friends about our philosophy of being fiscally conservative and what it means to shrink our government so that our economy can boom.
Amity, do you agree with a lot of the MAGA takes that have attacked Elon Musk and the libertarians, saying that there really is no constituency of voters who share our views? They love to post this chart, this graph that shows that that voters tend to be social left, communist authoritarian left, and authoritarian hard right wingers, and almost no one votes socially, open and fiscally conservative, as you and I might be. Do you believe that? Do you think that that's manipulated? Or do you think it's true that most American voters don't want liberty?
I don't think so. I think most do, but a lot of people that I've spoken to feel like we're too far gone, that there's too few of us to make a difference. However, if enough of us would actually come together and find candidates and vote the way we say we believe, then we might make a difference. I feel like, and I would push back a little. I'm not as socially open as many libertarians, although I do feel like people have the right to be socially, open in their views. Live and let live.
Well, that's really the crux of it, then, isn't it? I mean, because if you're a right wing authoritarian, a left wing authoritarian, then you're not socially open. Everybody has to, it's either you bake the cake, or you absolutely positively it's illegal. It's either illegal to bake the cake or it's mandatory to bake the cake for most people. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess so, me being personally very conservative, I guess I would be still socially open to, as long as someone's not harming someone else, then, they have the right to do what they want to do.
They have the right to have the gay cake, right? The gay Nazi cake, but they shouldn't be forced to bake the gay Nazi cake. It's all very convoluted. You have to know the politics going back to 2016 to get all these jokes, and we don't have time to explain them. Amity, so what's next for you?
So right now I am the state coordinator for the Republican Liberty Caucus in Virginia. We are holding an organizational meeting next week to form our state chapter. And beyond that, I am going to focus on the primaries to find as many candidates as possible to primary neocons and fiscal spenders and war hawks who are in Congress, and just go from there and just keep cyberbullying politicians on X.
Yeah, cyberbullying politicians, one of my favorite pastimes, and there are many politicians to cyberbully, especially the ones who are all talk. I don't know if you saw, but Senator Mike Lee was posting about fiscal conservatism or something over the weekend after he voted for the big, beautiful bill. So maybe, maybe give him a little bit of cyberbullying for me. Amity, where can people follow your work online?
On X, they can follow me at Amity Lee 13.
There we go, at Amity Lee 13. That's Amity Dolby. Amity, great conversation. Thanks so much for your time. We hope you'll come back. Good luck with the Republican Liberty Caucus of Virginia, and we're very grateful to have your time. Thanks for being so generous with us.
Thanks, Austin. Good to be here.
Thank you. That's Amity Dolby.